3 videos to show these notes because they are kind of lengthy, but I think that showing the different ways that these examples can look, these problems can look, is important. So make sure that if there are more than one video on the website that you are watching each one. When I want to solve using the elimination method, the word eliminate means to get rid of. Usually, in some books, not usually, this is also called the linear combination method because I want to add these two equations together in such a way that I eliminate or get rid of one of my variables. Now, right now, this is set up perfectly because 4x plus negative 4x is 0, so my x term would drop out, and I actually don't want to cross that out in that case, so let me take that back. Negative 6y plus positive 8y is positive 2y, and 0 plus negative 8 is negative 8. The reason I want to do that is I can't solve an equation with two variables, but I can solve 2y equals negative 8. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to get y equals negative 4, which means if I graph these two lines, they're going to intersect at a point where the y is negative 4. Don't forget to put your answer in an ordered pair. Now I need to find the x. I'm just going to use the first equation, the 4x minus 6y equals 0 equation, but I know that y has a value of negative 4. So 4x minus 6 times negative 4 equals 0. So 4x, and then negative 6 times negative 4 is a positive 24. So 4x plus 24 equals 0. I would subtract 24 from both sides to eliminate that constant on the left and get 4x equals negative 24. Then when I divide both sides by 4, that's a weird looking negative 24 there, I get x equals negative 6. Now, you are required on your homework to show these checks. I'm going to take this first equation, 4x minus 6y equals 0, and make it 4 times negative 6, because my ordered pair for my answer says x is negative 6, minus 6 times negative 4, because my answer says y is negative 4, equals 0. At this point, after you show the substitution, take your calculator. 4 times negative 6 minus 6 times negative 4 equals, and your calculator says that equals 0, which is great because the other side is also 0. Yes, show both of these steps, so it checks in the first equation. You have not proven that it is the solution to the system unless you check it in the second equation. So negative 4 times x is going to be negative 4 times negative 6 plus 8 times y is going to become plus 8 times negative 4, and I'm checking to see if that really does equal negative 8. So it equals negative 8. Take my calculator, negative 4 times negative 6 plus 8 times negative 4 in my calculator, and I hit equals, and I get 8, which is great because the other side of the equation was 8 already, which means this, if I graph those two lines, they really do intersect at that point. Now I'm not going to work all the way through this second equation. What I'm going to point out is, in this case, the 4x and negative 4x were opposites, so that when I added my equations together, I could eliminate x. It doesn't always have to be x, though. Positive 9y and negative 9y are also opposites. So when I would add these two equations together, I would get 9x plus negative 5x is 4x. Negative 9y plus positive 9y is 0, so I'm not going to write that down. And 0 plus 24 is positive 24. I'm just going to put and finish. We'll do more problems so you can see more of start to finish. But really, this was just to show that sometimes you're going to have opposites on your x coefficients and sometimes on your y coefficients. Now, the next thing that can happen is I don't have opposites. Do not write what I'm going to write now because I'm going to erase it in just a moment. Because I'm adding these together, 8x plus 8x is 16x. Positive 1y minus 4y is negative 3y. I'm not going to go any further than that. I didn't eliminate anything. So what I need to find is two that are opposite of each other. Well, if these are both positive 8x, I could just multiply the first equation by -1, and when I do that, the whole equation has to be multiplied by -1. So -1 times a positive 8x is a negative 8x. -1 times a positive 1y is a negative 1y. And -1 times -23 is a positive 23. Now if I look at these two equations, I have x and negative 8x. So when I add these two equations together, and yes, this is all the work you are going to show, 8x plus negative x is 0, so I eliminated x. Negative 4y plus negative 1y is a negative 5y. Negative 28 plus positive 23 is negative 5. Now I can solve this equation by dividing by -5 to solve for y, divide this side by -5, and y equals positive 1. So, if I graph these two lines, they intersect at a point where y is positive 1. I'm always just going to, for ease, use my first equation to substitute into to find my second variable. I'm not going to say it's always the easiest one to use, but what I'm going to say is that sometimes students can get kind of paralyzed by the number of decisions they can have to make on these problems. And if you're saying, which equation do I use, you can always use the first one and it will work. So 8x plus 1 times 1, because y is 1, equals negative 23, becomes 8x plus 1 equals negative 23. I would subtract 1 to eliminate that constant on the left, so subtract 1 on the right as well to maintain the balance in my equation. And I get 8x equals negative 24. And then I'm going to divide by 8 to solve for x. So divide the other side by 8, and x equals negative 3. So I think that if I graph these two lines, they intersect at the point negative 3, 1. But I have to, because it is required work on your homework, show my checks. So 8 times x in the first equation is going to become 8 times negative 3, because I look at my answer and I say x is negative 3 and y is 1. So plus 1y is going to become plus 1 times 1. And I'm going to see if this really does equal negative 23. So I grab my calculator. 8 times negative 3 plus 1 times 1 equals, and I get negative 23. The other side was already negative 23, so since both sides are equal, that does check. The other equation, 8x, is going to become 8 times negative 3 again. Minus 4y is going to become minus 4 times 1, and I'm checking to see if that really does equal negative 28. So 8 times negative 3 minus 4 times 1 in my calculator, and I get negative 28. It equals the negative 28 on the other side of the equation. So it does check in both equations, which means that is the solution. This is also, we're not going to do this entire example, but what I notice is these are both plus 7y. So I could also just multiply this first equation by negative 1 to get negative 8x minus 7y, because everything gets multiplied by negative 1, equals positive 22. Then I could add these two equations together. 4x plus negative 8x is negative 4x. Positive 7y plus negative 7y is 0, so I'm not going to write that down. And 10 plus 22 is 32. And I could continue and finish this problem if I needed to. You don't have to, just show that I could also eliminate y. Now, I'm going to stop there for this video, and go ahead and go to the second one, please.